Hi, I'm Jody from Sportsmith's Tech Support Team, and today we're going to talk about wedge pins. These wedge pins are used on the Airdyne models, AD3, AD4, and some AD Pro Comp models. What we're going to go over today is just how to install, how you can uninstall a wedge pin. This is a wedge pin. As you can see, it has this kind of a flat edge on it here. What that flat edge does is it actually mates to this flat edge that's in this. So any of your parts that you're using for a wedge pin, they're going to have an edge that's flat in one spot, and that's where that wedge pin is going to slide in. So basically what you would do is just slide the eccentric on and then install the wedge pin and put your washer and nut on the back side. For removing wedge pins, you can use a rubber mallet like I've got here, and what you want to do is just unscrew the nut where there's a little bit of play behind it, and then just take your rubber mallet and tap on it until it falls down. Then once you do that, you can run the nut the rest of the way off and push the wedge pin out like so. I can promise you on a machine where it's been installed for a long time, it's not going to be that easy. But that is the process for removing a wedge pin. Another thing that you have to pay attention for when you're installing these wedge pins and building the crank arm and bottom bracket assembly on an Airdyne is the direction that you install the wedge pins. If you look at these two assemblies, you can tell that this one, the crank arms are exactly 180 degrees out. But on this one, they're a little bit off. And this is a pretty common problem when installing these. What you got to do is, if you see on this side, I have the wedge pin in this direction, and I have the nut on the top here. And if I flip that where you can see the other side at the same time, the one on the inside by the eccentric is the opposite of the one on this side. On the outside, I have the wedge pins going the same direction. So if we just take one of these wedge pins out and we install it the other direction into the assembly, now they're exactly 180 degrees out. So what's important when installing these? The ones across the machine on the same spot, so the one on the eccentric on this side and the one on the eccentric on this side are opposite direction. This one has the stud, this one has the nut. And the same for the next one. The crank arm, this one has the stud up, but this one has the nut sticking up. That's how you get them 180 degrees out. When you're installing these wedge pins also, inside of this nut there's a nylon insert. And if you don't take a wrench and tighten that nut tight enough to get into the nylon insert, then it's not going to be able to grab and hold like it should. So what you want to do is just push the wedge pin in with your finger and start the nut, and then you want to take a wrench and make sure you get that good and tight, and you also shouldn't feel any play in it at all. It's a good idea to go back after the parts have been installed for a while and just check those nuts and make sure they're not loosening up for some reason. Sometimes if we don't get them seated correctly, once someone gets on them and starts using the unit, it's going to go ahead and move to where that wedge pin is seated correctly, but the nut isn't tightened. So that gives you a little bit of play in there, and that will wear that system out over time. That concludes today's video.